Hello, everyone. Today we are here with Lindsey McCoy, the CEO and co-founder of Plain Products, a social enterprise with the mission of eliminating the need for single-use plastic in our world. So, Ms. McCoy, thank you so much for coming here, first of all. So could you just start off by giving a brief introduction into your background and how you came to start Plain Products?
Yeah, I'm a little bit different than most entrepreneurs in that I started in the nonprofit world.
Mhm.
So I spent 20 years running various nonprofits, and towards the end, was living in the Bahamas. My husband's from the Bahamas. I was doing environmental education work there, and kept running into plastic. Turns out it is very durable stuff, and it doesn't make a ton of sense to use it for a bit and throw it away. So there's not the same infrastructure that there is here in the US to make our waste disappear. So you'd see it piling up on the landfills, you'd see it floating in from the ocean, in the waterways, on the side of the roads. And honestly, it just started to drive me a little crazy.
Yeah.
Throwing it away and knowing it was just going to go sit there for hundreds of years. So I started trying to use less plastic in my life. The reusable water bottles, the reusable shopping bags. And one place I couldn't find a solution was all of those plastic bottles in my shower.
Mhm.
So I called my sister and said, "Hey, want to try and figure this out with me? I want to offer a solution. I want to try and tackle this from the business side instead of the nonprofit side." We were moving back to the US, and so we created Plain Products, and we launched in February 2016 or
Great.
2017. Sorry. Yeah.
So obviously it's only been a few years since you started, but how have you grown since when you started? How's your operation grown from 2017 to now?
Oh, it's funny. I mean, again, not a business background, but I'm told it's been pretty phenomenal. We
Yeah.
did 5 times as much the second year, doubled the third, doubled again last year. So we've had great growth and a lot of grassroots support, which has been amazing. I think people really appreciate that it's solving a problem. So we've had a lot of help spreading the word.
Mhm. So, what's your main way of retail? Is it online, in person? Like, why do you choose that certain route?
We started with e-commerce just because we wanted to offer the solution to as many people as possible, and we really wanted it to be convenient.
Hmm.
So, here, I'll give you a little. So here's how it works: you order a bottle, shows up, start using it, and then when you're running low, you return to the website and order a refill, or you can subscribe, and we'll send it automatically. And so the refill bottle shows up. You just switch the pump over to the refill
Hmm.
and keep going. And then this bottle can go back in the box the refill came in, stick a return label and close return label on the outside, and it comes back to us for free. And we wash, refill, and reuse them.
Hmm.
So the great thing about aluminum is it never needs to get thrown away.
Yeah.
When these bottles, we reuse them as often as we can, and then when they get too banged up, we can recycle them, and there's no quality loss with aluminum. However, plastic, when it's recycled, it's downgraded, and so you can only reuse it once or twice. So all of that plastic, while it's great to recycle it, is going to end up in a landfill one way or the other. But the stuff that we're using never needs to go in the waste stream.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's very, very innovative. So, kind of looking at the opposite spectrum of the last question I asked, how do you plan to grow the company in the future? And like, where do you see it in the next 5, 10, 20 years?
So we, as I said, started as an e-commerce. The products were doing so well that we actually started getting asked by retailers if they could carry the products.
Hmm.
So we had to redesign the bottle. Actually, originally we hadn't said anything about reuse on it because we were like, oh, people are coming to our website, they know they're reusable. But we ended up redesigning it and putting a little, I'm a refill, I'm refillable on it. Return me, I'm reusable. Uh, so that if it was on a shelf somewhere, people would at least start to ask some questions and realize that there was more to the process. So we're working with 150 retailers right now. We're also seeing refill shops pop up around the country.
Hmm.
So that's where someone would come in with their own bottle and refill. And so we've added 3.5 gallon buckets to our line for wholesalers. So we're working with those refill shops to try and offer, we want to meet people wherever they are, and we just want to make it as easy for them as possible. So, now we're checking 3 boxes where you can get it to your home, delivered and picked up. You can go to a store, pick it up, drop it off, or you can go to a store and refill yourself. So we're going to just keep adding SKUs and hopefully adding retail and refill partners around the country.
Yeah, so just keep scaling the company as much as possible. What would you say is the hardest part about running a business?
Oh, all the things. That's probably the hardest part is all the things. I mean, you're trying to balance, keeping up the website. Having a wholesale business is almost a separate business from a retail, so that's a whole other infrastructure. Marketing, financial. So just trying to keep all the balls in the air. And as you add people, trying to make sure that they all have what they need and everybody has the information they need and the resources that they need to do their job. Um, and then, the internet is great. I mean, it's a great way to get products out to people, but it's also very crowded and very noisy.
Mhm.
So trying to get your message out. And our message is a little bit different. This whole reuse is kind of new.
Yeah.
So it's always a challenge to explain to people what we're doing and why we're doing it and how it works. And, people don't read. so, um, so trying to explain it, pictures, graphics, video, word, all the things that just keep communicating that message.
Mhm. Yeah, and kind of going off of that from your impact, obviously fighting climate change and like mass pollution is obviously like a huge part of like our priority right now. What do you think is the role of businesses like Plain Products, social enterprises in the overall combatant of climate change?
Well, I certainly believe business should be a force for good.
Mhm.
I I believe we're a B Corp, and that is a movement that is about business being a force for good. It's balancing people, planet, and profit.
Yeah.
So, we're as a part of our certification with the B Corp, we're judged on how we're doing for the environment, how we're doing for our employees, how we're doing in the community, and that's very important to me. So I voluntarily, signed up to be judged on all those things to make sure that I was doing it right and to learn what I did need to keep an eye on. So I think that should just be the baseline for business, honestly. I mean, I think the day of shareholder supremacy and being all about just profit, I think we've moved past that. It's
Mhm.
just it's not sustainable. That word gets kicked around a lot, but it really isn't. To just be using resources to make a dollar, I don't think that's something that our planet can sustain. And there's no reason why you can't make a profit providing a good product or a good service.
Mhm.
So, we are certainly trying to model that, and our customers support us because of it. And we hope that more and more people move towards businesses like ours that are doing it. And, if there's one thing that's true, businesses will follow money. So I think if there's consumer
Yeah.
demand for responsible products and responsible businesses, businesses will start doing it.
Exactly. That was the point I wanted to make. Generation Z is so socially and environmentally focused that it just makes sense from a business perspective to follow that trend and to embrace social impact with the positive effects that it'll have. So obviously you said you came from the nonprofit sector, correct?
Mhm.
So what are the differences you see in the impact you're able to make from a nonprofit and then a social enterprise?
Um, it's interesting. I mean, the nice thing about a social enterprise is the profit piece. So you're not reliant on grants or donations to do that work, because it is so much work to do, to constantly be fundraising. That takes a lot of time and energy. So being able to offer a product and just have that pay for itself and be a means of expanding the business actually makes a ton of sense to me.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we operate with a lot of the same principles that I did when I ran a nonprofit. So, I mean, we take good care of our people. We treat our customers like donors. So we really value customer service, customer feedback, and that has served us really well. So, the main difference in a nonprofit, it's not that you can't make money, it's that you can't redistribute that money to shareholders. You have to put it back. Everybody gets a salary, but you just put the money back in the business. And that's how we're operating, and it's really working well. So I would love to see that line continue to blur. I don't think
Yeah.
there needs to not be a distinction. I think that's kind of how we all should be operating.
Yeah. And I think the biggest uncertainty with social enterprises, because they are a relatively new field, is the give and take between profit and impact. So how much a business should support one over the other, or if one should sacrifice one over the other. So how did Plain Products find that balance and go about, and what is it now?
Well, I mean, I think the tricky part of that is you really have to charge what it costs.
Yeah.
So that's the main difference. In a nonprofit, you can sort of supplement the costs with donations and with grants to make sure that it's cheaper. And that's something that we're not doing. So, but then we find other ways to try and do that, like the refill shops. If we offer in bulk, we can offer at a lower cost. So
Mhm.
I do think there will always be room. I take back what I said earlier. There will probably always be room for nonprofits that are able to offer a subsidy and offer things at a lower price point to communities who need services and don't have that.
Mhm.
Um, or maybe businesses will be able to figure that out too. And if you're making enough here, you can supplement over here. That's something that we have to look at, because certainly you don't want communities left behind or not having access to good products.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I mean, it's complicated. It's a really, really, really good question, and maybe that's where public-private partnership could come in. But I'm getting away. So we charge what it costs. We don't charge much more beyond what it costs. It's
Mhm.
expensive to take back bottles. It's expensive to ship things around the country, unfortunately. And then, we set reasonable salaries. We make sure everybody's making a living wage. Nobody's too far apart on that spectrum. And then everything else we make, we just put right back into growing the business, because
Mhm.
that's, our mission is to help eliminate single use. So the more SKUs we have, the more partners we have, the more we're achieving that mission.
Definitely, yeah. I really like that philosophy to approaching your business. So just two questions that I wanted to end on now. What would you say is your favorite memory from working at Plain Products?
Oh, uh, there's a lot. I mean, we have a good time. Part of the fun in running your business is you can hire people that you like, not necessarily like you. I mean, that's one thing I have learned. It's important to have a lot of different skill sets and personalities,
Definitely.
and diversity of backgrounds, opinions. That only strengthens the business. I mean,
Mhm.
certainly, I don't want a bunch of people, but we all really like working together. Probably the happiest day was, we've been open a few weeks, and somebody that we didn't know bought something.
Wow.
Like you're watching it the first few days, you're watching the e-commerce site and you're like, oh no, I know them, or oh, I know somebody who knows them. And like the first time, it was like a total stranger, that someone we didn't know at all. That was a really happy proof of concept day for me, that someone, I'd never talked to, found this on the internet and decided to spend their money on it.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's like that first step to growing.
Yeah, yeah. And as I said, we have great customers, and
Mhm.
anytime somebody takes the time to write something nice, that always is a nice day. And we
Right,
do
yeah.
that. I mean, we get notes in the boxes, and we get emails just saying thank you for doing this, and we appreciate the solution, and that's great.
Yeah, definitely. So my last question that I always end on, my goal with this blog is to inspire the next generation of change makers through social entrepreneurship. So, what advice would you have for any future social entrepreneur, someone interested in the field?
Certainly, I would say that um, there is room for lots of solutions.
Hmm.
I mean, there is not going to be a thing that fixes climate change or single-use plastic problems. So yes, do it, bring it. I mean, we need all the solutions. We need lots of options and opportunities. We certainly, as a company, see other sustainable businesses as partners,
Hmm.
as collaborators, not competition. We feel like we're kind of all on the same team, and maybe there's a little bit of friendly competition, but we're trying to bring people over to this side.
Yeah.
So, I'm friends with a guy who runs a shampoo bar company, and we refer people back and forth, because some people want a shampoo bar and some people it doesn't work for their hair and they want something like us. But I certainly don't. I'm grateful that he's there, and I'm grateful that he's doing what he's doing, because it just provides, less plastic, less carbon in the world, and that's really what we're all after. So, I would just encourage people, a job is still a job, and it's a lot easier to get up every day if you can feel good about what you're doing and have some passion for it. It helps, I mean, it's still a grind some days. And it
Definitely.
helps when you can feel good about it and be getting nice notes from people or feel a source of pride when you see some education or awareness related to your product. It helps on those days when you're like, oh, gotta,
Yeah.
gotta do the financials or gotta do the not fun parts of it. And I would think the other thing is just, persistence.
Hmm.
It's not easy. It took us a year and a half to figure it out before we launched. We've redone the bottles a few times. We've redone the website a few times. Be open to critique, ask lots of questions, be curious. Don't think you can't know everything. You
Yep.
can't know everything. So don't think that you should. And ask people questions along the way. Be willing to learn and change and innovate as you go.
Yep. Thank you. That was amazing. So like I
That was
said,
not one advice. Sorry, I kind of rambled there for a minute.
it's fine. I'm sure everyone appreciated it. So just thank you again for coming here. And I think I echo everyone when I say what you're doing is really inspiring. And like I'm very thankful for your advice. So if you have anything to add, go ahead. If not, we could wrap up this interview.
No, I mean, I appreciate what you're doing. Certainly, as I said, the internet is a noisy place. So we always appreciate getting to talk about what we're doing and why. And I think that it is great that more people in Gen Z are thinking about going this way. I mean,
Hmm.
I really do think that, if we're going to save the planet, business is going to have to be a part of it.
Hmm.
Um,
Yep.
so we need more social enterprises out there and more people doing what you're encouraging them to do. So thank you.
Thank you.